Now, Samsung Electronics will adopt a wage peak system this year, a move expected to bring significant changes to the nation's labor market. Samsung's latest move comes as Korea's National Assembly passed a bill in April last year that would make it mandatory for the public sector and big businesses with 300 or more employees to extend the retirement age to 60 or above from 2016 and others from 2017. Well, for a closer look into this issue, we are joined live in the studio by Dr. Hwang Joung-wook, a professor of law at Hankuk University for Foreign Studies. Welcome to the program, Dr. Hwang.
Thank you for having me again.
Now, Samsung announced that it will raise the retirement age from the current 55 to 60, and then two, adopt the so-called wage peak system. Could you briefly explain to us what this is?
Exactly. As you commented in the intro, so what Samsung is doing is implementing the new retirement age of 60, 2 years ahead of when it's required to do so by law. In exchange, what it is asking the workers to take is that after age of 55, the wage peak system will kick in. That means that the workers whose age is above 55 will see their wages drop 10% a year. So the way to look at it is sort of a grand bargain that Samsung is giving to its workers. Yes, we'll give you retirement age, which is 60 from the current 55, but in return, you have to take the reduced pay after age of 55.
Now, Dr. Hwang, is this the first time that Korea or Samsung or it's been tried in Korea overall?
It has been actually tried in different versions. There are some companies such as GS Caltex, Hyundai Heavy Industries that have some versions of this system in place. What is significant is that it is Samsung who's introducing this two-tier system in all of its group companies. And Samsung being the representative company of Korea, that's the significance. Just as to give you one indicator of how dominant Samsung is in Korean economy, Samsung Electronics alone accounts for about 20% of the total public equity market in Korea. That is kind of unthinkable. You have to combine 6 biggest companies in the U.S. to make up that kind of concentration in the U.S.
Now, so how do you expect this? Do you expect this practice to spread to other companies in Korea?
I do, because Samsung as the standard bearer of the Korean economy, everybody sort of looks to Samsung about what they do, how they do. So I think the large companies will feel pressure to actually follow Samsung's lead. Where you will actually feel resistance will be the small and medium companies that, under the law, they actually are now required to raise the retirement age until 2017. So we'll see some stiff resistance from the SMEs.
Now, on the labor market, on the older workers, will this help these older workers here in Korea?
Sure. I mean, currently, under the law, you're supposed to retire at the age of 55. So for those workers who don't have a good backup plan after the retirement, this gives them extra 5 years to stay in the labor force. However, there are some concerns about this system as well. That is, because this is going to be starting with Samsung and spread to bigger companies, we might actually see entrenchment of the two-tier market in the Korean labor market between large and smaller companies and between regular workers and dispatch workers. So that's a point of concern. And militant labor unions might not like the reduced pay after 55. So those are some of the things we need to watch out for as this system goes forward.
Now, Dr. Hwang, is it true that this kind of a problem for the older workers and their wage system is only confined to Korea and Japan?
Basically, yes. What has developed in Korea and Japan is that companies usually promise lifetime employment, and in return, the wages are not really linked to the workers' productivity directly. So the pay system has been pegged to the seniority, but as the economies have changed both in Japan and Korea, that has broken down without the proper backup of the social safety net. It really had created very similar and grave problems both in Japan and Korea.
So are you happy with the latest development?
Sure. I mean, in the fact that in the absence of vastly expanded social safety net, I think it does provide extra economic cover for workers above age 55. However, I think one thing that does need to change in general is the Korean corporate culture. There's a saying in the Korean companies, 사오정, and literally means that 45 is a de facto retirement age. Basically, Korean corporate culture is such that if you get to a certain age, then people don't like you to work as a subordinate if you're older, unless that culture changes, even if the companies actually might put in the actual written policies, the practice might not change at all.
And that could be based from Korea's Confucianist thinking and its logics there. So we'd like to see the corporate culture change with the economic development as well.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a one step towards making Korean labor market more flexible and more tolerant, and I do welcome the change.
All right, Dr. Hwang Joung-wook, a professor of law at Hankuk University for Foreign Studies, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you very much.